Hello, internet friends. I just realized that I don't think my volume. Oh, hold on. Bear with me just a second here. We know how things happen when we go back to live streaming after a long delay. Well, all right. How's the audio? Can you guys hear me all right? Let me know how the audio is. Audio is good. All right, great. Now, the only problem is I don't know if my audio is going through my headphones or my computer. So, with that being the case, we're just going to leave my headphones in for the rest of the stream, just in case the good audio is in fact coming through them. So, wow, okay, audio is great, folks. People have spoken. All right. Okay, sounds like headphones. I'll take that guess. Well, welcome. Thanks for joining me, internet friends. It's been a while since we've had a live stream. And, it was mentioned that back in the day when I hit the 30K mark that we would do a Q&A and a live stream. So here we are. We're doing the thing finally. Took a minute, so I apologize for that. Hey, Anthrax, good to see you. Yeah, I know. It's been a grind. Any of you who have done the YouTube thing, it takes longer. It doesn't take longer than you expect, but it's a commitment to the long-term goal for sure. So, all right. So, as you know, I'm not the best of live streamers in terms of the entertainment category, and I get kind of nervous. So, definitely, if you have some questions, typology related questions, life questions, throw them in the chat, and I'll try to get to them as I get along. And I also have some fun questions as well. Thanks for thinking that I'm great. I appreciate that. So, as you guys know, with my streams, I like to ask you questions as well because I find your answers equally as interesting. And so I have some questions for you to throw in the mix. Which one? So this one is actually a really interesting one. As an INTJ, how nervous are you to do live streams? It's the way that I look at the live stream is it's a muscle I don't flex often, and therefore when I go to do it, it's weak. Now, if it was something that I did more often, I would definitely get more used to it. I would have more of a I would kind of have a better feeling to how I interact in the live stream and kind of what my shtick actually is. But because it's an unflexed muscle, it's always going to feel a little awkward in the beginning, especially. So thanks for hanging with me through that time. We're drinking an Alani New in the purple theme that's happening today. One time I had someone say, I think it was in a Discord channel, they were like, "Oh, LiJo, that's the purple YouTuber." And I was like, the what? But I realized that my earliest videos, I had a problem with my white balance, and it was in fact purple tinted, the videos. It was because my lighting was set for fluorescent lights and I was not using a fluorescent light. Let's see. Yeah, it's a good way to work on your inferior function for sure. Yeah, purple YouTuber and thinking that I'm from Canada. Those are the two things I get a lot. So my hair wasn't in fact purple. It was highlighted like blonde, but because of the white balance that was in my videos, it did look purple. And now looking back at those videos, I'm like, I see what people are saying. All right, thank you. Thanks, guys. No, it wasn't. It's not the trippiest thing you've ever heard. It was actually just the camera being set up improperly. All right, so the first question, if no one asks me a question, I have to ask you a question, because we can't have this dead silence in the middle. So this is one that I've heard some people give me funny answers for before in the past. So my question to you is, oh boy, what is a scam that you've fallen for? What's a scam that you've fallen for? Have you fallen for a scam? Have you signed up for Ty Lopez's real estate course? No shade to Ty Lopez. He's a whole life insurance. Wes trying to sell you the whole life insurance. I mean, I've heard of people refer to that as a scam. That's funny. Higher education. Yeah. That actually, good point. I think a lot of us have gotten swooped into that trap / scam. Now, I think higher education can work for some professions, but a lot of them, such as my own, not needed necessarily. Let's see. The tarot card reading is a science. What are some of my favorite SE activities? Playing poker, and I would say working out like consistently keeps my mind in the right headspace. Very it helps me think clearly and keep my mood in the right place, I'd say. Hey, what's the good word? You tell me. Okay, wait, let's see. Cosmic Death says, I bought a hair removal cream that said it worked in 30 seconds, and then it turned out it worked in 5 to 8 minutes. And the company refuses to refund me. Does that count? Yeah, I think that absolutely counts. That's definitely worth a a complaint to the complaint department. If you bought it on Amazon, I highly recommend writing a funny review, because there's been times in my life where I've needed a good laugh, and just going through the bad reviews on Amazon products is enough to make my day. Let's see. Dragon Slayer loves poker? Wow. Well, welcome to the club. All right, so we got a few scams out of that. Cosmic Death cracked me up. I still look like a Yeti. Would give 0 stars if good. Good stuff. All right. Okay, here's a good question for the chat pros. So, what is something non-political that you could argue all day about? I'm sure we'll get some good answers from all the thinking dominants in this chat right now. What is something non-political you could argue about all day long? I could argue about like the nutrient density and like the properties of food and their benefits, and how certain things interact well with our biochemistry and things that do not, and also why certain nutrients why they accomplish certain things and why also others do not. So I'd argue about that all day long when someone, tempts me. Wow, Victorian fashion is 100 times more comfortable than modern fashion. I was not expecting that one. Never argued with David about anything. Okay. The hot dog is a sandwich. I'm pretty sure that's a reference to a previous live stream, which if it is, that was a good one. Beer, I'm a craft beer nerd. All right. Right on. Arguing about things that do or do not fit. That's a funny one. Yeah. The sun is hot. Let's see, what else can I argue about? I could definitely argue about archetypes, stereotypes, and cognitive pathways. That's definitely a let's get LiJo to rant topic. I could rant. I could argue all day about this particular type does this particular thing, and this particular type would never have this kind of job. Don't get me started on that topic because we could be here for a while. Sorry, I sometimes it's hard for me to read the chat as fast as I can. So, what are my thoughts on Bigfoot, Loch Ness monster, etc.? I have thoughts, but I relatively don't have an opinion on them. A part of me hopes that Nessie is real, but I think at the end of the day, I would be equally as non-surprised if they were existing as if they weren't existing. So either way, I wouldn't be surprised. And a lot of ways, I hope that they are, because we need more, diversity on the planet. Guru Max says, I could argue about what constitutes high quality work. Any other ISTPs in the house that do agree with that? I'm sure there's a few. I think that there are particular types that are more likely to be live streamers? I think the EPs definitely have an edge with the live streaming because they're just kind of doing the thing and rolling with it. I think the IJs are probably a little less on the stream bandwagon. The IPs as well. I say EPs and IPs are probably more likely to stream as a complete anecdote, but oh, definitely stream, my friend. You're ready. Just go out there and do it. All right, let's see what else we got here. Ooh, this is a good one. So I'm eating dried blueberries, by the way. Hold on. So what are some things that you use every day but have no idea how they work? So what are some things you use every day but have no idea how they work? Great question. So glad you asked, LiJo. What don't I know how it works? I would say like the air conditioner, I understand the general principle of how an air conditioner works, but I don't actually really fully know how the air conditioner works. That's a lie though. I don't know how an air conditioner works enough to be able to repair one. How about that? Dish soap. Very sneaky. Toilets. Yeah, the darn computer. Ooh, glasses. I believe glasses work by their curvature, which with your eyes, the level that your eye needs correction and the ratio of the curvature is how it works. But I don't. It is a interesting thing to think about. Refraction. Great word. Yeah, people would be a good answer. I don't use people, but if I did, that would be my answer. The vacuum cleaner. Ooh, that's a good one. You know, a funny story about a vacuum cleaner is, so my dad, as many of you know, is also an INTJ. And when I was a kid, my dad was like, Lindsay, I need you to give me a haircut. And I'm like 7 years old, right? So I'm like, Dad, oh my gosh, Indy, stop. I'm like, Dad, how am I going to give you a haircut? So what he did is he took a shop vac, right? So a shop vac with a long tube. And then he took a pencil and then he taped the pencil onto the edge of the shop vac. And then he gave me a pair of scissors and he turned on the shop vac. And so I put it against his head and it sucked the hair up the vacuum. And then I just snipped it right where the edge of the vacuum cleaner hose was. And then it sucked up the hair. And then that way I was cutting his hair all the same length all around his head and he got a haircut. So if you ever need an INTJ hack to how to cut your hair or how to cut your partner's hair, that one's for free. Paul Bruce, you typed me a few months ago and you were spot on. No one else has explained their typing as well as you have an ITI. Hey, Paul, how's it going? Where do you think other typers go wrong in their process? It's, it's really hard to, typing is really hard. Like, that's the first thing I can start with. It's one of those things that just when you think that you're like, you figured out the game, especially if you're like typing on a 5-12 scale, like OP does, just when you think you figure out the game, it's like probably when you need to study more. And it's one of those things that requires so much like consistent practice and so much attention, because when you're observing someone, it's so easy. Like, our default brains are just programmed to go and like look at anecdotes and go think of like, what does this remind me of? Like, what's this the same as? And not really listen to the patterns in that state for the first time, And so because of that, typing is really hard for the human monkey brain to wrap its head around, because you have to look at everything as so fresh and everything as, in this case, what am I hearing? And also you have to pay such careful attention to the patterns of not what the person is saying, but of the cognitive process that is behind the words. So, the biggest thing I've learned about typing and, my growth in that area is that people can say whatever they want. People can say, I'm the most organized human in the world. I plan everything so well. But whatever they're saying, there's a cognitive process behind the words that are coming out. That is what you're looking for when you're typing to someone. You're not looking for what they're saying. You're listening for the process that has then resulted in what they are saying, right? And then that process gives you indicators of, is this seeker gather? Is this saber organized? Is this tribe over self? Is this self over tribe? Is this T? Is this F? And so you have to kind of then narrow down. But it's very, it's a practice at the end of the day. And so I encourage everyone to continue studying. If you think you figured it out, probably have work to do. So, okay, where am I? Monkeypox. All right. Yeah, you have to analyze real life examples. Exactly. So a lot of times, you can kind of read, you can study, but then you actually have to study cases where there's someone who has that as a savior function. Like what I always recommend to people if they're trying to study type is just focus on one function. Focus on people who have SI first, let's say, right? And then for that month, only only watch people who have SI first, like if you're watching videos and studying videos, and only watch SI people first. So, for example, like Kit Fife or Michael Gerber, those are two people who have SI first. And you watch their videos online. Now it's like you're getting a few different examples. You're getting a male, you're getting a female, you're getting, increase your data set, but of that function first. And then start to look at the patterns of SI and how SI manifests between like with this collective group, right? And then start to pick out the patterns that are in fact SI and the things that are actually other functions, or the things that are actually just their affect, or the things that don't really have much to do with type at all. It's just that person's preference, right? So start to weed out those things and actually focus on the pattern that is that particular function. Friendly reminder for everyone to start breathing manually. Hey. Hello, friends. Thank you, Tom. Tom letting the cat out of the bag. How much do I find myself saying the words at the end of the day? Quite often. Probably too often, actually. Because it's like, that's my way of summarizing. It's like, here's all the words, but at the end of the day, this is what we need to focus on. This is what actually means something. All right, right on. So I'm going to get some other questions. How can we tell if someone is sensory or intuition last as a single observer? So solo link, how you can confirm it if someone is like what function is last? Is it sensory last, or if it's intuition last? So that'd be for either an IJ or an EP. Um, what you would want to focus on is what is the fear surrounding. So if someone is an I first and as a result they're SE last, the fear, like the thing that spikes the blood pressure, the thing that makes that person uncomfortable is the sensory chaos. Is when the abstract order of how things should be gets thrown out of place, and there's just like the randomness that comes in through that, and that stuff is what trips them up. That's going to be the fear. If it's someone who's SI first, the NE should be the fear. So the NE is really like the things that can't be proven in real life. So the NE who have people of NE last will often, they'll get freaked out with like the spooky sound around the corner, right? And like, what could it be? The possibility. It's the fear of the possibility of what something could be, because the sensory proof isn't there to support it. And with people who are SE saviors, so like the EPs with SE first, the fear is like at the end of the day, or the thing that really comes and like kicks them is the fact that they haven't had like the long term in the front of their mind. And so, things that may have had importance or significance, like as a long term goal, like those things wouldn't have been kind of like perpetuated earlier in life to like necessarily achieve that. And sometimes they can feel kind of behind on maybe where they thought they wanted to be at a certain time in life. or really how things would come together in certain circumstances. So it's like SE will kind of go on the fly and go on the move. They can get a lot of stuff done because they're dealing with the sensory, but sometimes they miss how all that stuff actually comes together. And then the NE saviors, the SI I fear is like the paperwork, the details, getting stuck with that side of life. And at the end of the day, they don't realize that they're afraid of losing their keys, but then they lose their keys at a time where it's really critical that they have their keys, and then that's what ends up tripping them up. So at the end of the day, it's the thing that they fear the most is where you can see the last function. And hello, Indy. Hi. Who's a good boy? You like to say hi to the internet people? Hi, internet friends. My name's Indy. He's a good boy. Feminine FI dog. Okay, so what do I use to edit my thumbnails? Canva. Great app, great software. Anyone hasn't seen the improvements in Canva recently, their team of engineers are doing a fabulous job. Big supporter. Okay. Do you ever get confused between saviors versus double activated demons? Yes, those can be very hard to differentiate. The thing with the double activated demon functions is that there's going to be a lot of energy towards them. So there's going to be a lot of energy in whatever that category of that function is, but it's still messy. It's still sloppy. It's not particularly leveraged, even though there's more energy going to it, that energy isn't always used well. And so that's where you'll see that difference between, is this a savior or a double activated demon? It's like, just because you can bang a spatula really, really hard, it doesn't mean that it's like the right tool to hammer in a nail. So with that same, concept in mind, it's like, yeah, you can put a lot of energy into something, but it might not really be the right tool for the right job. So that's where you can kind of see the difference. So Genius asked, what would you say is the most distinct difference between a dominant perceiver, a dominant judger? So for OP people, that's, if you're a observer versus decider. And so the EPs and the EPs and the IPs versus, never mind, forget what I just said. So the dominant judger, so the J types versus the P types, right? So you're looking at the IJs and the EJs versus the IPs and the EPs. So at the end of the day, all you're looking at is, does this person have an extroverted function first, or does this person have an introverted function first? All of the EPs, all of the EJs have an extroverted function first, which means that their cognitive process is starting from a state that is taking in information, is taking in, it's processing from an external data source. I have a video on this from probably like over a year ago. And the introverted functions first, it's their data source is internally housed. So that cognitive process is starting with, if you're an EP with any first, it's going to be like, what are the possibilities? And then the cognitive process goes from that point on. But the possibilities are something that exists outside of that person. With the EJs, either having TE or FE first, the cognitive process starts with, like, how is this working externally? How does this work outside of me? And then it comes into either like NI or SI, and then the flow goes from that point forward. The IJs and the IPs, the introverted functions first, the cognitive process starts from a more subjective viewpoint, which is it's coming from the inside of how that introverted function perceives the world. And so it's innately coming from like an internal data house first, and then it's going to an external data house second. So I hope that helps a little bit with the differences. Starts making a spatula hammer. Okay, so someone typed you as consume, sleep, play, last, but said your NE was double activated. Yeah, so your NE would be double activated because you would have both consume and play in your top 3. So the consume animal will activate the NE once, and the play animal will activate the NE another time. And so when we're looking at activation, we're looking at those first 3 animals to see what the activation is. Is it single or double? See, it's funny, like anthrax, I don't see myself as remembering it well, because I don't feel like I'm remembering anything that I'm talking about this. It's just kind of like in my head, I just like see the picture of like all the parts, and then it's just I'm talking about the parts, you know. But it's interesting because I see myself as having a very bad memory about a lot of stuff. Like I'll do something and then immediately forget what I did. Complete goldfish on the day to day. But with things that have like an interworking structure, if I study that structure, then it's easy to remember because everything is based on something else, you know? TE would be nice to have. See, you say that now until you have TE. Let me tell you, the struggle of TE can be real. Nobody really likes TE. Like it's one of those things that it's like, I like the idea of TE, but it's like, do you really like TE? That can be kind of an obnoxious function. But it's a good function. I appreciate it. You trust me, TE is not nice to have. See, like I'm already getting the support I needed there. TE is SE grip real. How do I get out? So when people say grip, I know it's a word that's often used in the typology space, but to be honest, like I haven't really looked into how people are defining the grip. I assume it's just like you're kind of stuck overdriving that function, but I don't know. Like I've definitely done SE things before, but I think that everyone goes through phases at certain points in their life where you might be accessing that function more, or you might find more of a fascination in it. But it's usually not going to be in like a healthy, balanced state. You're probably going to look like you're peacocking, with whatever that function is. I've definitely been guilty of such. TE brings all the haters to the yard. TE gets things done. People don't like TE. That's the truth right there. People don't like to be corrected. That's also true. That's one thing that, when you talk about like the thinking DOMs, whether it's TE or TI, just in the top 2 functions as a savior function, the thinking DOMs, it's like TI versus TE, they have a different way, and in different contexts they assert their thinking function, and so TE like will correct a lot because it's trying to like give the objective data on like, no, this is how you do this thing, like this is how this is supposed to be done, or this is how this thing works. Like it's the thing is with TE, it's not according to like my opinion or how I would like to do things. It's just like TE is looking on a spectrum of what works and what integrates well. And so if something or someone is not doing that thing, then it's like TE is like, well, obvious call out. I'm responsible for correcting the tribe so that, these things can continue to operate. And I'm doing them a favor by hopefully preventing them from, running into a mess at some point. Because then it would also be TE's responsibility in a lot of ways, responsibility to clean that up. So everyone likes an honest person until they meet an honest person. So do TI correct people? So I would say TI, it's not so much they correct people, but it's like they'll tell people like why they're wrong, you know? So I would say, as kind of like an anecdote, that TI is more likely to tell people what they're doing wrong, and TE is more likely to tell people how to do it right. Now that doesn't mean that TI people won't say how to do it right, but it's like the TI will be leading with like their stacked knowledge. So if something is against their stacked knowledge, and they'll be like, this is wrong, this is why this is wrong, because that's the first thing that they're going to see, because it's coming from that internal view of them knowing first, right? TE is coming from that outside view of, I know, but I only know because I know this external spectrum of what works and what doesn't work. And so I'm just going to go and tell you what works and like why something wouldn't work, you know? But it's not, there's nothing like, TE isn't talking about like the wrongness of something. It's just trying to get to the point of like what works and what doesn't work. And TI will go, this is why you're wrong. This is why you're wrong. You can't keep doing this. This is incorrect. And then it's like how to do it correctly is kind of secondary or not even sometimes offered. It just depends. Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. Yeah, TI is more likely to focus on the inconsistencies. Absolutely. Yep. Well said. Cosmic death is ISTP. Is that correct? Am I remembering that correctly? So many types of people I remember. um, all right. Yee. Okay, so INTPs always ask you to cite your sources. That's funny because it's like the INTPs are probably just figuring like that you don't have a source. And so like and if you're gonna argue with them, it's like they want to put that extra like SI control on you somewhere. All right. All right, let's hit another question, why don't we? Ooh, this is a good one for you humans. Um, what is something that you probably know more about than 99% of the world? What is something that you probably know more about than 99% of the world? Most things. Ha. Yeah, typology would be in that box for me. Um, mm, like nutrient biochemistry would be another one. Um, I don't know if I'm in the 99%. Well, okay, no, I might be in the 99%, in the 1% for poker at this point, considering how few people know. Um, what else? I don't know. I think those are three pretty good categories for myself. I'm sure I could fake a lot of other ones, but I'm trying to go with the ones I can prove. Martial arts, Jungian theory, mindfulness, nice. Anyone into Stoicism? It's kind of a vibe I've been feeling recently. Definitely a benefit to I think the INTJ types. Probably the IJ types in general, honestly. Thank you, Club ENTP. It's been a grind. Ah, my fellow Stoics in the chat. Yeah, I think it's definitely worth investing some of your. The thing is like the more I read from the Stoics, the more I'm just like, yeah, well, obviously, but it helps like kind of reinforce like my own perspective towards things, and also brings a lot of words to things that I maybe haven't put words to before in my own, like, towards the way that I see things, you know? Like I feel like it furthers a framework of thought that I already have, but it also like enhances it and deepens it as well. So how do you handle telling folks it isn't uh how do you handle telling folks it isn't that you don't care, you just don't care? um how do I handle telling people that I don't care? Probably I'll say something like, uh, I don't have the mental energy to invest thought into that right now. I don't have the mental energy to invest into that right now. Or I don't have the physical energy to invest into that right now. Um, I think those are two good answers. Good old Pythagoras. Is anyone else eating a snack right now? I'm eating dried blueberries. Big fan. 10 out of 10. What's the INTP's major malfunction? Hmm. Malfunction. INTPs. All right. INTPs. A little weaselly they can be sometimes. They're always into kind of wanting to figure things out, wanting to like depth in their knowledge in something, and then kind of scurrying about and probably not using it, you know? Um, the INTPs, they like the idea of learning stuff, and they will learn a lot of stuff, and they will depth their knowledge on things. But it's like the real world application of those things may or may not be useful, and they may or may not follow through with it. So, ooh, good question. To be successful in getting 30,000 subs, do you have to make videos you enjoy, or do you make videos viewers will enjoy? It has to be a marriage of the two, is what I've come to. And, I think in the beginning of my channel, I was trying to figure out, like, what do people even like at all? And I tried a wide range of things. A lot of them I was not good at talking about. And so then I got to the place where I'm like, I'm just going to talk about the thing that I like to talk about, which is typology. And funny enough, that was a thing that my audience, connected with as well. And I think it's because I actually cared about it, and I actually was invested into talking about it. And I think that resonates to people. So there has to be a marriage of the two. It has to be something that you have interest in speaking about, but also that people have interest in watching. And I have this long list of topics in my phone that I always keep. Like I'll be thinking about something, and then I'm like, oh, I want to do a video on that, and I'll put it in there, and then I'll write the actual script later. But there's weeks where it's like I don't feel really motivated by any of those topics, and instead of just speaking on something that I'm not feeling kind of inspired by, I'll wait to find the right thing that I do feel inspired by. It might be in that list, it might not be. And that just helps me produce a better quality video because like I'm there showing up for it. I'm not just like throwing out content, you know, because that doesn't really sit well with me either. Even though it's something I could do, but I'm just like at this stage of my life, I'm like, I want to have enjoyment in what I'm talking about, not just talk. So much work. Do you think extroverted feelers can feel inauthentic? Yes, Pedro. um, I would say FE users, people who have FE, especially FE first, to people who have FI, if you don't understand that person's, whether you understand the functions or not, right? Because a lot of people are out there in the world, they have no idea what the Jungian functions are. And at some point, they understand that the person who has FE, if they themselves have FI, that person actually is being genuine. It's just their own version of how to be genuine, of how to connect with people. And but I think there's also a lot of people who have FI who just see FE interact in the world and they're like, oh, that's just fake. That person doesn't, nah, they don't believe that. Like anything that they're saying is not, it's not real. Like it's not authentic. And the thing is like the person who has FE, at their core, they have TI. Their core identity is rooted in TI. Their reasons for what they are doing, but their vibe function, their F function, how they create vibe is based on the symbiotic nature of people and chemicals, and so they play into that game, but it is authentic from their cognitive math. And FI just does not see using a feeling function that way. To us, it's so personal. So when an FI user is sharing emotion, if they're sharing a sentiment, it's like so, I want to say pure, but that sounds kind of biased, but it's so pure because it's like it's something that's so part of them. It's a part of their identity. And if they're willing to like share with someone, it's like you better respect it and appreciate it because like that's personal, Whereas FE is moving emotions on a spectrum. It's looking at the value of emotions and the value of connection, and it's leveraging that as this it's like a fluid that allows other chemical reactions to happen, and so that's the art of what FE is doing. It's just very different than FI. You know what I realize about a lot of people who have TI, who still have FE, is like, they have that FE function, but they're not using it as often as the FE saviors are, right? And so when they're talking about interacting with someone, like a win to them, a win to the people who have TI is often like if they've been able to make someone laugh, like if they've gone into a room and they've gotten some people to laugh, and like you'll talk to them later and they'll be like, yeah, they're like, I got everyone to laugh. Like I've heard this from so many people that I've spoken to, who have TI. And it's like to them, they're like, yeah, I won. I got them laughing, and like they'll kind of continue on with the conversation. But it's like I look at myself as someone who has TE, but then FI, I'm like, I don't think I've ever noticed or like have come back with that being like I've made people laugh. Like it's not something I've like consciously ever even wrapped my brain around, or even like use as a metric to my own success in a certain social dynamic. Yeah, I have a lot of respect for FE because I feel like people with FE are able to do, and they're able to just come up with things and say things that are just so not natural to me, but often in that context, it's like the perfect thing to say. For instance, someone that I work with was speaking about another person in our office who wasn't feeling well, right? They're talking to them and they're like, um, he said, he was like, you know, it's so hard. He's like, when you're not feeling well, is like you tell everyone you're not feeling well, and everyone says that they're sorry and whatever. He's like, but then they move on and like you still don't feel good. And I was just like, oh, like he was like what he had to say, and like that person was there present, you know. It was just like so nuanced and like beautiful, and the sentiment behind it was just like he just nailed it, you know. I'm like, dang, Effie is just like, it's so good. Like I would have never have thought to say that, you know. I would have never thought like, yeah, do you know what people struggle with is when they say that they're really not feeling good and the world moves on and they still feel really bad and they're like in a workplace setting, you know. Like that can be really hard. I'm not thinking about that, you know, but like here it is, like an FE person who was, and I just appreciated like seeing that shake down in real time and being like, wow, another thing on the list that I'm not doing well. Hey, Winston's mom, glad you joined us. What is a metric to your success in a social interaction? I would say a metric to my success in a social interaction is is if I can see that basically if I've kept the emotional state stable and then even uplifting through the time I've had that interaction. Um, and like you can tell that based on like a few things, like on how much that person has to work to be in the conversation with you, how much they have to kind of pick up the slack because you don't have anything to say. Like if I'm making them work hard, like I'm not doing enough, you know? Or if I can't find a relevant topic to vibe on, if that's like the kind of context it is, then like I need to try harder in that area. Or if I can't figure out what to say, if someone shares something that's troubling to them, you know, then like that's my bad. I should be better at that. So I kind of have my own markers of what I consider successful, but it's really based on how much that other person has to work slash is left hanging. When I could have been like a better kind of mediator in that process between myself and them. Yeah, that's a good point, Cosmic. If I'm really an introvert because I sit in a VC with a ton of people every day and I'm like, yeah, it's great. They get to do all the talking and I get to listen. Yeah, I know a lot of people who get who are who it's like the VC in Discord is like their place to be social, either talking or not talking, you know. Um, but that's what I love about Discord is the ability to, if you're kind of like on your own and you're lonely and you need like internet friends, it's like there's usually a community who's like talking about something that you're interested in. Like it's usually going on somewhere, you know. So it's nice to be able to drop in. Anthrax asking the hard hitting questions. Other than INTJs, other than wow, other than INTJs, what type is your favorite type? Here's my diplomatic answer. Um, it depends. Like I have different favorites for different things, you know. So in a particular context, my favorite type might be a particular type. For instance, having to deal with someone that has a lot of emotional trauma in real life I want an FE person there by my side. They're my favorite type in that moment. Or if I am trying to figure something out in an area that's maybe not my specialty, but I know it's someone else's specialty who has TI, I'm going to ask them because I know they have stacked their knowledge on something really far. And so in that context, they're my favorite type. So context determines everything, including my favorite type. Winston's mom's got a question. Question for LiJo. I joined late. um, the Enneagram, any thoughts? So the Enneagram. So this is how I am with typology, right? I feel as though that I still have so much to do, and I have so much to increase my practice on with the Jungian functions and that side of typology that I haven't gotten into Enneagram like other people have. And so though I know some about it, I don't really feel like I'm the best person to speak on it because it's not something I practice and it's not something that I've put a lot of time and thought into. So I wish I could answer your question better, but I can't. Sorry, Winston's mom. Interesting. Do I agree that intuition can be called pre-thought? Pre-thought. Well, intuition is often constructing webs between things without us realizing it. And then you kind of come to meeting a part of that web and then you see the rest of it. So maybe in that way you can consider it pre-thought because it's especially NI is building a constructed web of similarities and seeing how all the parts move together and work together. So I could see that, being the case and how some people might talk about it. Head, heart, gut. All very important. Take care of your microbiome, folks. Um, how to win an ISFP heart or an ISFJ heart? Well, it depends on what your type is. Are you an NT type, an ST type? I would say if the person has FI, cherish them being their authentic self, and also tell them that they're very useful because they'll want validation for their TE function, which is underneath their FI function. So that's one suggestion. The other one is so you said, or ISFJ. So if the person is FE over TI, empower them to use their TI, empower them to do what makes sense for them versus always just expending energy for what's important to others, what makes other people feel good, what creates the vibe outside of them. Tell them to work on themselves and do what they want to do. They will often need permission for that. And so those are two suggestions. All right. Yeah, my Enneagram number 5, wing 4. Apparently, it's pretty difficult for INTJs. So, not super exciting. and the whatever it is, like SPSX for whatever that other thing is. Probiotics, heck yeah. Thank you. I like talking about things that are useful. I'm gonna ask you guys another question because, gosh, I've been talking. Mama's out of breath a little bit. Let's see. Ooh, this one is very interesting. Hold on. We talked a week ago in a session about the possibility of NE consume getting more from reading. Oh yeah, and SE consume getting more from watching. Yeah. So I haven't gotten anywhere from that, but I'm going to ask that to the chat. So for anyone who has NE consume, do you get more from reading or do you get more from watching? Just answer that, okay? If you have SE consume, right? This is kind of targeting OP a little bit, but if you have SE consume, do you get more from reading or do you get more from watching? So basically, at the end of the day, do you have NE or SE? And do you get more from reading or do you get more from watching? Yeah, so to take the OP piece out of it, just the question is, do you have NE in your stack versus SE? So if you have NE in your top 4 functions, do you get more out of reading or do you get more out of watching? If you have SE in your top 4 functions, do you get more out of reading or do you get more of watching? Okay, if you answer one, just let us know which one you have. What function do you have? You get more out of talking. Yeah, consume is an OP definition, objective personality. So just use the NE versus SE if you don't haven't gone down that rabbit hole yet. SE watching, yeah. I prefer watching SE. Me too. SE watching generally. We got a little trend here. NE in reading. Mm-hmm. SE reading, all right. Let's see. Yeah, for myself, if I have to take in information, like let's just say I have to take in information quickly, right? I get it the most quickly out of watching. If I can scroll to a point in the video, I can press play. I watch how to put together the IKEA shelf, like Lord help me, like I do not want to read the directions, would rather do anything else. So that's kind of when I put it into my brain. If I were to answer that question, I'm like, all right, you have to put together an IKEA shelf, Lindsay. You failed at this once before. You had to throw the entire shelf away. So are you going to read the directions, or if I have the option to watch a video, much preferred. But also if they're okay, this is the other thing now. This is the caveat for myself. If I can't rewind the thing that I'm watching, so like let's say you're watching a teacher lecture, right? And they're lecturing and you're having to like watch them lecture, or watch them demo something. If I can't rewind the thing I'm watching and watch it a second and a third and a fourth time, then it's 100% reading, because I'm not going to get it the first go around. I'm gonna have to like look at it a few times to really like figure out what's happening here and then do the thing, whatever it is. So definitely, I guess, yeah, mine's conditional on that. Can I rewind it? If so, then I'll watch. If not, then 100% I need to read it. Yeah, see, if the video is full of fluff, you got to be able to fast forward it, you know? Here's a cute dog. Aren't you, Indy? Are you a cute dog? He is. All right. This is an interesting question, so give me your weirdest answers. What is your favorite sound? What is your least favorite sound? There it is, folks. What is your favorite sound? What is your least favorite sound? I'm gonna have to think on this one for a moment because I don't really know. What is my favorite sound? I would say my favorite sound is my favorite sound is like the timbre and resonance of a perfectly in tune cello. That would probably be my favorite, one of my favorite sounds. My least favorite sound. Anything high pitched. Anything high pitched and or out of tune. But mostly just like it's really for me, it's the frequency of high, like that high frequencies are very extremely unsettling, whereas low frequencies are extremely soothing and comforting. So I'll take low frequencies all day as my favorite sound and high frequencies as my least favorite sound. Favorite rolling marble. Ooh, I like that answer. Very cool answer. Favorite deep sub bass. Okay, low frequency friends. Amy Lee's singing voice, nice. Let's see. Favorite sound, laughing ravens. Let's see. Least favorite, fire alarm. That's, I agree with that. Melodic rushing water. Heavy wind. Ooh. Heavy wind. Favorite sound is heavy wind rushing past an open window. I love that. Least favorite, sirens, because it's most painful. Yeah. Ooh, rain on a tent. Solid answer. Gosh, this is my favorite question so far. Least favorite sound is E, back of the TV channel. I know exactly what you mean. And it's also my favorite sound. Least favorite sound is someone disturbing me while I'm trying to work on a project in silence. Oh yeah, I don't know how my filters are set. Favorite, the sound of fluorescent light bulbs shattering. That just like instantly in my mind puts something like, oh gosh, you have a lot to clean up right now. Least favorite, loud motorcycle engine. Ironically, Indy, my dog, that his least favorite is also the loud motorcycle engine. Koalas fighting are a nice sound. Angry koalas are hilarious. If you're ever a bored NTP one day, look up, or NFP, look up angry koalas and enjoy. Rain is a great sound. Okay, now we're talking about favorite smells. Yeah, whoever wrote rain on a tent, open wind past an open window. Ah, now it's like I want to hear both of those things. All right, good answers, guys. That was a cool question. Ooh, here's a good one. Self-growth oriented. What 3 traits do you think make someone the best person they can be? What 3 traits do you think make someone the best person they can be? I would say a sense of objectivity against their own personal narrative, discipline, and the desire to do things for those and other things outside of themselves. So I guess being like not selfless, but seeing the need outside of themselves, discipline, and objectivity against their personal narrative. I would say those are 3 traits that can make someone the best person they can be. Bacon list. Of course, that's the first comment I see. Self-awareness, vulnerability, and courage. Nice. They can keep a secret, dark humor, and they never give up. Nice. Intellectual honesty. Yeah. Curiosity. And the use of Oxford commas. Thank you. I at least have one argument about the Oxford comma a week. I am on the side of using the Oxford comma. For the record. You can quote me. The Oxford comma is right. Let's see. The willingness to be themselves, the desire to become more, and the ability to take care of themselves properly. Those are solid. Empathy, open-mindedness, respect, love it. Consciousness, intelligence, and kindness. Very good. Code to live by, open-minded. Thank you. Gratitude. Kindness, learning, courage. Smart, giving a shit about humanity, motivated. Trustworthiness, grit, fairness. Those are good. All solid answers. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's just like we're all on the same page or what, but loving the answers. It's all right. Ooh, this is interesting. What is something that exceeded your expectations? What is something that exceeded your expectations? I would say something that exceeded my expectations. I think things exceed my expectations all the time because I keep my expectations extremely low in order to avoid constant disappointment. So I would say my expectations are exceeded every day, and that allows me to, stay optimistic and see the world in a good light most of the time. Um, but there was conscious effort behind that. Oh, thanks for that. I exceed your expectations, Anthrax. Space Mountain. Yeah, I keep my expectations, especially for the humans, pretty low. Um, and therefore, I'm always pleasantly surprised. You have a forward thinking boss. That's nice. It's no risk of a self fulfilling prophecy with keeping your expectations low. I don't think of it so much as a self fulfilling prophecy, more of just like a benchmark. So it's like, what is the benchmark you're measuring everything at, right? We can create that subjectively, from anywhere. So I choose to keep my benchmark of what I'm measuring at literally zero. So anything that's above that, great. And anything that falls below that in the negatives, it's like, wow, that has to be really bad at that point. In which at that point, I'm like, I have a right to like voice this, considering like I'm pretty like I'm not expecting a lot. I'm just expecting like what needs to be done, or I'm expecting the really the bare minimum in a lot of ways, and then okay, great. At least like the needs have been met in a certain category. People who go above and beyond, wow, amazing. So maybe my benchmark isn't as low as I think it is. um, is asking, does that make sense? A lot of DETE, play high. I don't really know. I notice myself doing that sometimes, but if I'm talking, it's become more of a filler word habit, unfortunately, which I need to get better with. Uh, I remember in a speech class when I was in 10th grade having to pay attention to my filler words and getting a little bit better with not putting in filler words. And I've since fallen off the bandwagon because 10th grade was a long time ago, friends. Thanks, Winston's mom, for dropping some links in. The real MVP. Winston's mom, everyone's mom here on YouTube. How do you deal with conflict resolution? Often poorly. I feel like conflict resolution often needs an element of uh, a feeling function that's operating sometimes a little bit higher than mine is, because it has to be in tune with the value system, and sometimes the values don't match what works. And so it can sometimes be hard for those who have thinking over feeling to manage a conflict eloquently. Uh, but one thing that I think has helped me is I mean, obviously, like the first thing is like put yourself in the other person's position. But second to that, I would say that, realizing that the perspective that person is coming from is, though it might not make sense to you, it's real to them. And what they're expressing to you, or whatever that conflict has, like, even if it doesn't seem like it makes sense, a part of that is real to them, just as real as your perspective towards the thing that, as you see towards that same argument, right? Or as that same conflict. So just as real as your perspective is to you, their perspective is to them. And I think that can sometimes help navigate how you approach a conflict, because I think oftentimes we just see as the other person's argument as fake and doesn't make sense, but it's kind of asking like, well, how does this make sense to them? Why is this real to this person in the way that it is? How do you see other INTJs? For me, I see them on the same level, but since most have different expertise, INTJs are similar, aren't we? We can be stubborn in certain ways. I'm stubborn with figuring things out. Like when it comes to missing information and like making the whole thing kind of come together, completeness of things, completeness of a bigger picture, I'm the most stubborn person in the room. Like I will figure it out over my dead body. Are emotions actually embarrassing for TE and TI DOMs? I feel like, yeah, I think we have our level of embarrassment. For the TI DOMs, I think it's different. It's more like feeling that they're allowed to express their range of emotions, in a healthy way. For those of us who have TE over FI, the embarrassment is like that I'm spending time on this emotion that seems like it doesn't make sense, Like if I'm really sad about something and a thing that I'm sad about seems really stupid, like through my perspective, then I'm just like, it's embarrassing that I'd be spending time feeling sad, Whereas it's like, it's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's just like, okay, just be sad for a little bit and then move on, So my AirPods somehow just synced with my phone and it was reading my text messages out loud through my ears. Um, I seem really patient with people. I can be. Again, but it depends on the context. Again, what kind of environment are we in? And do I have the ability to be patient in that environment? Generally, yes. Generally, I can be, because here's the thing. I was realizing this the other day. In a lot of ways, my greatest strength and my greatest vice are the same. And that's the fact that I understand people to such a degree that I can't blame them for what they're experiencing. Because at the end of the day, I see everything that everyone's experiencing, everything that they struggle with, everything that they fear. It's all a result of their cognitive process. It's their wiring. And so some people are more growth mindset. Sometimes they get past things more quickly. Sometimes people just really, they're just very growth oriented and they're just on top of it. It's like, wow, awesome. But the ones that aren't, I can't really get mad. I can't really get like disappointed because I'm just like, yeah, you're doing and you're acting in ways that are related to your cognitive programming. Like I get it. I understand. And because I understand, that's why I have a lot of patience. Now, if someone's put themselves into a situation in which their cognitive process is not aligned with like what needs to happen in a certain time frame, then I don't have patience. Then it's like, listen, you signed up for this thing, it's not a good fit, you got to go somewhere else, because there's this other thing. Of course, this is my cognitive bias that needs to be done a certain way, and it's not going to work with you intertwined in it. So that's when I don't have patience. Otherwise, I do. Do you know what I do? I have listened to Doja Cat, and I knew who she was before she was famous. That's my claim to fame. Because she made this video that she recorded, I think, on iMovie on her computer, the cow song, and a friend of mine had posted it years ago, and I thought it was just so funny. I'm like, who is this person? When I speak, it seems as though I am looking everywhere but the camera. Yeah. So when I speak and I'm looking everywhere but the camera, it's because I have to try really hard in my videos to look at the camera, just to look forward. Because when I'm thinking, I'm trying to avoid any kind of sensory distraction because I'm visualizing, like, in my head what I'm trying to say. So it's like it's here and I have to get it out here, right? So anything that is in the way of that process of going from here to here is a distraction, and it makes it harder for me to talk. So it's also like, if you know, like, the sexual modalities and OP, it's like that. It's a very FM thing to deal with because, again, visually minded brain. I'm like, my thought process is coming together very visually, and then I have to speak the words, and it's often just like it can be very mumbly and not the best. Uh, so I'm trying to not see what I'm speaking because it's just one more thing. I'm trying to see here, and I'm seeing here, then I'm just thrown off. All right, we're gonna hit up one more question. What we got here. Ooh, okay, here's a good one. Interpret this question as you will. Okay, the world is your oyster. What type of puzzles are you best at? What type of puzzles are you best at? I know my answer for this one right away. What type of puzzle am I best at? Human puzzles. That's my answer. I'm best at human puzzles. They're my favorite kind of puzzle. There's an infinite amount of them to figure out. Around the corner, another puzzle. In your office, another puzzle. Someone on the internet, another puzzle. Human puzzles are by far the best, most complex, most satisfying puzzles. Human puzzles. Yeah, they're great. People puzzles are hard for you to solve. What's your type and why are they? What's your type? Why are they hard for you to solve? Okay, for people who say that the human puzzles confuse you or that they're hard for you to solve, what's your type? I'm interested. And what is the most confusing human puzzle you currently have on your plate? Who in the world am I? That's figures puzzle. Great quote. INFJ. Interesting. Well, do you know an INFJ who has solved the human puzzle thing really well that you might want to study is Darren Brown. One of my favorite INFJs of all time. Human puzzles are boring. No, they're not. Human puzzles are awesome. They're just like delicious layers of cake with every different frosting flavor you can imagine. You can just kind of dig deeper and deeper and deeper until you find out what they fear. You know, what motivates them, aka their fears. I love that you're just looking at everyone like, how do I solve that? Yeah, it's fun. You know, it's definitely a fun thing. People who choose to not communicate. Yeah, that's true. Um, yeah, people who choose to not communicate, there's usually always like the why behind why people do things or why people don't do things. At the bottom of the barrel, it's always fear. There's always some kind of fear that's like, if you had to narrow everything down, every motivation, every like desire to do something, um, everything you run towards or away from, there's fear that's connecting all of it. And as I would say, Aaron, that's how I solve human puzzles. Is getting down to what the cognitive process, what is dangling at the end there, which is related to how we see fear. And you know, everyone, it's like, well, you know, maybe you had a certain upbringing or there was a certain thing that happened to you. That can be trauma, that can be a bunch of different things, you know. But you take 3 kids, well, grew up in the same household, raised by the same parents, they're going to have very different motivations, right? They're going to have very different perspectives of what's the worst thing, what scares them the most, what is the hardest thing in life. Why? It's like they've been raised the same way. Shouldn't they have the same? No. Our cognitive math determines we what we fear or what we believe that we fear, and what we believe we need to run away from. So all right, guys, I'm going to be wrapping up the stream very soon. I've enjoyed you all being here with me. If you have any last questions, throw them in the chat. I'll answer a few more. And then hopefully have not so much time for my next live stream, whatever that might be. Yeah, I have to do more reading on the attachment styles. I've heard a lot of people talking about it, and I have looked at it a little bit, but not enough to really talk about it too much. This has been a fun stream. I appreciate you guys being here. And did you also appreciate the internet friends? We appreciate you. You know, Indy he doesn't look real. I often look at him and I'm like, this is a beanie baby. Like, that's not a real dog. And the funny part is that if you've ever, this is the most cat-like dog you've ever encountered. It's like, you want his attention? No, get away. Don't touch me. Not interested. You don't want his attention? Comes over to you, sits on your face. You know, like, just walks on the top of furniture. You know, just arrogant as can be. Most cat-like dog I've ever had in my life. Yeah, he looks like a stuffed animal. It's ridiculous. A meow, 100% meow wolf. What has been my greatest change for growth in life? Uh, Definitely as it relates to my SF functions, and that would be uh, allowing myself the time to find out what I enjoy and then actually do those things. Because if it's, you know, as an NT, if it's not about figuring out solving, you know, kind of narrowing down towards like some kind of endpoint, it seems like it doesn't bring value, like it doesn't make sense to do. But that's just the cognitive lie. And I found that, you know, it's really about giving myself permission to have the time to like figure out what I like and giving myself the time to do things just for the sake of enjoyment, not for the sake of purpose. And doing things for the sake of enjoyment actually does have a greater purpose, which is my long term growth and my long term cognitive flexibility. So, definitely worth doing. If I tied my dog to a stick, would it be good to clean the floor? Mm, he's a little bit skinny to clean the floor. I think you need to be a little bit wider, a little less bony. All right, guys. It's been having a pleasure having you here. Thanks for putting up through my awkward stream. And I'll see you guys next time.